Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to look at a new feature that New Retirement, which is the retirement planning software we've talked a lot about in this channel. It's the one that I use. They've just launched a new feature that is excellent, and it involves the order of withdrawals during retirement. In other words, do you take from your taxable accounts first, and then your traditional retirement accounts, and then your Roth? Can you change that? Can you change the order? They've launched this new feature that makes that very easy to do. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you that new feature. I'm going to show you what it looks like, walk through how to use it, and then we're going to look at some sort of advanced ways you might use it, some hacks, if you will, to put it to good use. And then we're going to end with another feature that they recently launched that I really liked. I actually stumbled upon it by accident, but I want to show you that as well. So let's dive right in. We are looking at this is my demo account. I have my own personal account for my family. Then I have this second account, which is a demo account. Now, if you're looking at this and you're like, Rob, that says Boldin. What's up with that? Well, New Retirement rebranded. It's the exact same tool. They rebranded their company from New Retirement to Boldin, I think to reflect their vision to have this, to be able to have this tool do more than just plan for retirement. It'll be fun to see what they do in the coming months and years. But in any event, so the way this tool used to work out of the box, you would have all your accounts could be traditional retirement accounts, Roths, taxable accounts. And in this demo, I've got a little bit of everything. So there's a traditional IRA, there's Roth, another traditional, another Roth, brokerage account, checking account, savings account. And when it came to the order in which this tool would pull from those accounts to fund your retirement, it would start with taxable accounts, and then it would go to traditional retirement accounts, traditional IRAs and 401ks, and then it would go to the Roth accounts, right? Now, you could change that before, but you had to do what were called money transfers right here. You had to add each transfer by year or over a period of time. We made it work, but it wasn't easy to do. What they've now done, when you go to money flows, which is right here, they have this withdrawal order option. If we click on it, here it is. And there's several things about this that I really, really like. When you open it up, you're going to see traditional, and we shouldn't confuse that with a traditional IRA or a traditional 401k. What they mean by that is that this is sort of the default setting. As I mentioned, they're going to start with after tax, right, or brokerage accounts, right, taxable accounts. They're going to draw from those first. Then they're going to go to pre-tax, or what we might call traditional retirement accounts, and then finally Roth accounts. And then the first thing that struck me, and I wasn't expecting this, is that they actually list each individual account and the order in which, again, with this default setting, they're going to draw from those accounts. So it starts with checking. Now you'll notice savings is got the I don't know what you call that, but it's the red circle with a line through it. That's because I have set up that savings account to be excluded from withdrawals. And I'll show you how you do that. If we go to accounts, and we'll go to that savings account, it's down here. Any account you create, down here you get this question, exclude this account from your withdrawal strategies, yes or no? And for the savings account, I clicked yes. Now, why did I do that? Well, the theory was this will be for the emergency fund. And so you kind of always want to keep the money there. You don't want to be spending it down. And in fact, if you ever did have to spend it on an emergency, you'd probably want to fill it back up again. So I excluded that account from withdrawals. And again, to go back to money flows, I like the way they did this. You know right here, oh, that's right, I excluded that account. And you might exclude other accounts. You might exclude inherited IRAs and treat withdrawals from those with RMDs separately. You might be saving for a trip around the world or a remodel of the house, and you might want to exclude that from withdrawals. So there could be other reasons to exclude an account from withdrawals, but that's how you do it. And that's one way to affect the order of withdrawals. Now, you'll notice here, you might not be able to see it because it's very small, but this checking account, I have it currently set based on average rates of return at 1%. This savings account, now it's excluded from withdrawals, but it's listed here, it's 3.5%. I just threw in a number. And the brokerage account is 7%. And if we come down here to pre-tax, the first account is set at 5.5, the second one at 7. And the same thing with 2 Roths, 3.5 and 7. And that's important because the default approach to the withdrawal order is, again, after tax, pre-tax, and Roth, but then within each of those buckets, we'll call them, the order of withdrawals is based on the rate of return that you set for that account, starting with the lowest rate of return. They'll take from that account first, and they'll move to the highest rate of return. And so, again, before this feature was launched, you didn't see this visually. In fact, it wasn't at all clear that that's how they did it. You had to sort of dive into the help documents to figure this out. And now they show it for you. So even if you don't want to customize it, I think this is an excellent feature. It allows you to see the order of withdrawals with sort of the default or traditional approach. Now, how do you customize it? It's very, very easy. I will say, before you customize it, I would recommend you create a new scenario and customize it based on a new scenario so that you can compare the two scenarios. In fact, we'll do that. So if I come here, these are my scenarios. I've got a lot here because, again, this is a default account for a demo account for this channel. But we're going to create a new scenario. It takes me here. The one we were just looking at is what I call the new baseline plan. So we're going to add a new one. We're going to say, I'll call it order of withdrawals. And we're going to base it on this new baseline plan. We'll create this scenario. Now, why have I done that? Well, for 2 reasons. I don't want to mess up my baseline plan. I might start doing all kinds of customizations. I don't want to mess up my baseline plan. And the second reason is that I want to compare the two once I'm done, right? So we'll switch plans to this new one that I've created called order of withdrawals. And up here, this tells us that's what I'm in. And we'll go back to money flows, go back to withdrawal order. Now we'll go to customize. When you click on customize, what it does is any accounts you've excluded from withdrawals gets pushed to the bottom here. And then all the other accounts, they're still in the same order they were in over here. They're just not organized by account type. And to change the order, real simple, we just hit edit order, and now we can drag and drop any of these. So let's do that. Let's see here. We'll drag and drop this traditional IRA, and we'll just move it to the bottom. Now when we do that, we've got to save it. It shows us the effects of that change. Now, so far that looks pretty good. We're going to get $77,000 more at the end of our plan, and we're going to pay less in taxes. Now, this is something though you have to keep in mind. This is so important. These changes that you see here, and sometimes they're negative, by the way. You get the red thumbs down sometimes. They're not just based on the fact that I just changed the order of withdrawals. They're also based on these return rates. Again, I know it's very small, you probably can't see it, but this traditional IRA that I moved down here is set for a rate of return of 5.5%. And so that affects this impact as well, because if I have an account that I think is going to have a much higher rate of return, and I move it down to the last account to be withdrawn from, that's going to allow that money to grow longer at that higher rate of return, and it's going to affect these numbers. So for example, let's edit this order. We're going to put it back to where it was. I think it was here. So let's save it. Yeah, and it just reversed what we did. And now I'm going to go into that account. Which one was that? That was the traditional IRA. All right. Let's go to that traditional IRA right here. And I'm going to change the rate of return. I'm going to get kind of crazy. I'm going to make it 9% both pessimistic and optimistic, so that whatever I set it at, it's 9%. You know, whether I use average, optimistic, pessimistic. If I go back to money flows, go to my withdrawal order. So there it is, 9%. It's the same account, right? I haven't changed the balance. It's 500,000. But if I now move this down, that's going to be an account that's going to continue to earn 9% for much, much longer. Save this order. And you can see, I don't know if you remember the last numbers, they were 77,000. Now, because again, there's the same change. I moved the same account to the same position, but because I've got it earning 9%, the effect on my overall plan is much more significant. So I point that out so that you can keep that in mind. When you see these changes here, it's not just by itself the order of withdrawals, it's also the assumptions you're making about the rates of return, right? So that's a pretty simple and straightforward example. Again, you can edit whatever orders you want. You can move things around. And of course, then if you go into your scenarios, whoops, I didn't want to create one. I want to compare one. I'm going to compare different scenarios. And you could compare the baseline and my order of withdrawals. Once you play with the different order of withdrawals that you want, and you can see a lot of the differences between the two accounts here. So that's basically how it works. Very easy to use. But there are some advanced approaches to this that I want to share with you. So I've seen similar tools in other retirement planning software. In most cases, they didn't allow you to change the order of withdrawals at the account level, like New Retirement, or I guess Boldin, allows you to do. So I think they've really taken it sort of a step further. In other tools like On Trajectory comes to mind, I don't believe you could change the order at the account level. You could only change it at the tax account type level, so traditional, Roth, and taxable. The fact that you can change it at an account level in Boldin opens up some other opportunities for us, and I want to show you what I mean. We're going to go back to the order of withdrawals, and we'll just stick with the traditional order. And you can see we have a brokerage account here, and it's got, in this case, $250,000. So we can move that, right? We can go to customize and move that wherever we want. But inside this account, you might have any number of investments, ETFs, mutual funds, individual stocks, and they may have, and probably do have, different cost bases. So if you were to actually go into your brokerage account and decide to sell something, if you're like me anyway, that decision is going to be based, at least in part, on the tax consequences of whatever I'm selling. So I might, if I want to keep my taxes lower, I might pick an investment that has a high cost basis relative to its value in order to reduce the tax consequences. But how do you do that here? Because this is just one brokerage account. It's got whatever comprises this $250,000. For the cost basis, you'd probably just put an aggregate cost basis. And by the way, that's a perfectly fine approach to retirement planning. But for some of you, you might say, Rob, I'd really like to be able to have a little more finer precision and control over it. How do I do that? And this is the big hack, if you will, to keep in mind. These accounts in New Retirement don't need to map to your real world accounts one-to-one. Just because you have one brokerage account, you could take that one account and inside New Retirement, create 10 different accounts that all together add up to whatever is in your brokerage account. And you might want to do that if you've got different assets in that account at different cost basis. So let me show you how that would work. We'll go back to accounts. And so we've got our brokerage account. It's right here. It's $250,000. Now I'm just going to assume for our discussion that let's imagine that $100,000 of that $250,000 is in Amazon stock. You were a big believer in Amazon back in the 90s. You invested a few $1,000s, and it's worth $100,000 today. And that represents, what, be 40% of that account. What can we do? Well, we can add a new account. It would be an after-tax account. And we can even call it, in this case, Amazon stock. The name is just whatever helps you understand, what this account is about. So this would be $100,000, tax treatment, capital gains, and we can put the cost base. So let's say the cost basis, I don't know how much Amazon stock's gone up in the last 25 years, but I'm sure it's a lot. But we'll just put $2,500 cost basis. So most of this is gains, and you can put your optimistic and pessimistic rates of return. We'll just leave that alone, and we can save that. And of course, we then have to go to our brokerage account and lower this balance down to $150, right? Maybe this is just an ETF, for example. And we'll put the cost basis. Let's just say the cost basis for this is $125,000. So what we've done, and we'll go back to money flows because I think it's just easier to see. Here we go. We got our Amazon stock and we got our brokerage account. They're now, in the real world, they're all one account at Vanguard or Fidelity or Schwab or wherever you keep your money. But in New Retirement, there are two different accounts. And so why would we do that? Well, On the Amazon stock, you might say, there's so much in gains here. I really don't think I'm ever going to sell this. I'd rather just let my kids inherit it and get the step up in basis. So I kind of want to keep this separate from the brokerage account. So that's okay. We could come down here to customize. And so if we look at this, you'd say, well, in the customized version, it's already listed last here. I suspect the reason that it's listed last is because I just created it. Now, again, if I select the traditional approach, it's going to be number 2 because it's a taxable account and I've got the rate of return at just 3.5%. But if I choose customize and watch what happens over here, the numbers change because it's listed last in the customized view. Again, I think because I just created it. But in this customized view, that's what we want. We don't want to trigger all of those gains, so we're going to list it last. Now, one other sort of, I guess, advanced approach that might be relevant to you. Remember, before we had this nice new feature, we had to use money flows and do transfers. They are still relevant. I'm going to give you an example. The same assumption. We got this Amazon stock. We want it last because of all the embedded gains. But let's imagine that for 1 or 2 years, maybe before Social Security kicks in, we're going to be in the 0% capital gains tax. And we're thinking, for those 2 years, we could sell, let's just assume we could sell $20,000 each year in Amazon stock and not pay any capital gains. Of course, if that were the case, maybe you would decide to do Roth conversions, and that's a separate topic. But let's imagine we wanted to sell $20,000 of Amazon stock in two years, back to back, right before, say, Social Security kicks in, and we maybe factor in IRMA too. How would we do that? Well, we could actually split this Amazon stock into 3 different accounts and move the other 2 accounts higher up, but that's not really that precise because we want to sell that stock in specific years. So we can just go to money flows, and we can go to transfers, which are right down here, and we could add a transfer. So we could say, all right, we want to transfer money from Amazon stock to, we'll just say, our checking account. And we want to do, what did I say, $20,000 for 2 years. So we'll do annually. And we'll start it next year. So let's put in, we'll say January of 2025. And we're going to stop, we'll just put it at December 2026. So we'll sell in 25 and 26, and we'll save it. So what we've just done, we can see some changes. Not huge changes because we didn't make a huge change to the plan, but our state value went up a few bucks. Our lifetime taxes paid a bit more, right? Now, why are we paying more in this case? Well, it's because this demo account isn't at a 0% capital gains tax rate for those 2 years. So in this particular demo, that sale triggered taxes. But again, in our hypothetical, we're going to assume that it wouldn't based on your specific circumstances. And so now we've been able to sell some Amazon stock next year and the year after and keep the rest of it for the very end of our plan if we should need it. Otherwise, for example, our children might inherit it and get the step up in basis. So there's a lot of things you can do with this new feature. I love the visual way it shows all of this. And again, you can incorporate money transfers still. And I really like the idea of breaking up your accounts, particularly the taxable accounts, so that you can have even more control over the order of withdrawal if that's important to you. There could be many cases where, frankly, doing that's just not worth the trouble, but it's an approach you can take if it helps you. Now, I mentioned another feature that I stumbled upon. I just want to show you that very quickly. They had launched what they call financial wellness. It's right here. And you get all these metrics, and I really like these metrics. I'm showing you 6 here. If we go to the metric library, you see all of them, and you can add ones to that dashboard that you might want to have on in your plan. But if we go back, the one that I stumbled upon, and I really like it, is this one right here. Your average retirement withdrawal rate. Now, you can see at the moment in this demo plan, it's 4.3%, and it describes it for you here. And if we were to change the assumptions on rates on both the rate of return and inflation, this 4.3 is going to change. So we're at average now, and 4.3, I would look at that as reasonably safe. If we go to optimistic, it's going to go down, right? Because inflation's lower in the optimistic assumptions, rate of returns are higher. So look at that, we're only at 2.8% in the optimistic scenario. And of course, if we go to pessimistic, it's going to get ugly. 12.4%. Yeah, that tells us we got a big problem. Now, by the way, you can see all of this as well when you go to the overview. Yeah, we have a 25% chance of success. Frankly, I'm surprised it's that high. If we go to average, our chance of success jumps to 87%, and of course, financial wellness, the withdrawal rate's 4.3. So I found this, I knew about the financial wellness and all the different metrics. I didn't realize until just a few days ago that one of them is this average retirement withdrawal rate. I really like it, kind of a useful thing, and I've added that to my own personal dashboard as well. So there you go. I think the order of withdrawal, they've promised it, they've delivered it. I think it's a really good feature, and I really like the way that they've implemented it. And so there you go. Check it out. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Be happy to help you out any way I can. And until next time, remember, the best thing money can buy is financial freedom.